now we are going to talk about what is left join and how we can actually do the left join in MySQL. So what is left join basically? The left join helps to fetch all the records from the left table and the matching records from the right table. As you can see in the image that A table is basically, you will get all the records from A table, and from the B table, you will only get the matching records, right? So let's go to MySQL Workbench and let's have a look at how we can actually implement this, right? Let's go to the MySQL Workbench. So here I'm going to do these things from the scratch, and we will make our own database and we will use those database, and then we will make a table. So according to that table, we will fetch our data using left join, right? So let's get started. First, we are going to use a command called create, right? From create command, we need to create what? We need to create a database. So we are going to write create database, and then my database name is my database 2, right? So this is my database name, that my demo database 2. Now I need to execute that. For executing that, you need to select the command and just press on this run. Okay, so yes, you can see your database is created. Now what you need to do, you need to use that particular database. So for that, I am going to use command and then my demo database 2. The same particular, maybe for my case, I am using my demo database 2. For if you want to use some other database, you can go for using the same command, that what particular database you want to use for your particular operation, right? So I have used my demo database 2. Then just click on execute button, right? Yes, this is also executed. So you can see you got a message when you write create database my demo database 2 that one row is affected. So that means your database is created. But when you write that use my database, my demo database 2, that time there is no row affected. That means there is nothing is created or inserted. What actually happened is just your command says, okay, from this I'm going to use my database 2, my demo database 2. Whatever the table you are going to create on this, whatever the data you want to insert, it's going to take in that particular database only, right? Now what we need to do, we are going to create a table called customer. What are the attributes have in that table? It has customer ID, first name, middle name, last name, city, mobile number, occupation, date of birth, and lastly we have the constraint, that is primary key. So we all know why we use primary key. So we use primary key to reduce the data redundancy, right? So if you look at the table attributes, so cast ID is basically a varchar, right, which can contain character type, okay, or the number as well. The length of the varchar is 6, right? Now it comes to first name. When I write f name, and this is also a varchar, and when we are putting the limitation like the what will be the length of your first name or customer ID, because we want to manage our memories as well. So if you use a high number length for a particular attributes, in that particular case, maybe your memory is occupied, but you are not using it. So what's the point of actually wasting the memory, right? So in that case, we use f name, varchar is maximum 30. So we can assume that anyone's name, some person's name cannot be more than 30 character, right? So in that case, we use 30. For middle name, again, we are using 30. For last name, again, we are using 30. But for the city, we are using 50, because we know that city name cannot be 30 character, right? So for that, we are using 15. Now comes the mobile number. So we all know mobile number character should be 10, right? So we use varchar, that is 10. Then comes the occupation, that is also 10. Lastly, we use date of birth, but the type of that date of birth attributes is date. So that comes with MySQL, right? Then we have written constraint customer name, cast ID PK. Basically, you are giving a constraint name to the particular table, right? So if you don't want to use constraint custom ID PK, that is the primary key, so you can directly write after this that primary key. This one you want to make a primary key, but this is a good practice to use a constraint and then the constraint name, and then which one you want to make that particular constraint. So for my case, I want to make cust ID as a primary key, right? Now we want to just execute this part. Let me just execute that. Yes, you can see 0 rows affected, but this is actually created. Your table customer is created. Now what you need to do, you just, if I want to see what are the tables is actually created in my database or not, it's like we are actually going to use the same database or not. So in that case, we are going to use a command called show tables. Let me just execute that. This basically, this command we use to check what are the tables we have in our particular database, right? So let me just execute that. Yes, you can see our customer table is created, but it does not have any values in it. But yes, there is a table structure called customer is there in your database. Now we are going to make a table called branch. So basically here we are trying to make a database management system that is for bank, right? So it's a very basic one. In later in the section also we will gonna do some good projects, and maybe 2-3 projects we are going to do to understand how you actually can design your database and how you can start like making your own tables, and what are the constraints you are going to use, and what are the constraints it's really needed, right? So yeah, we will do in the later in the section, but here we are just going to make a very small like portion of a bank management system, right? So here we have branch. We know that banks are actually having their own branches. So here we are going to store all the branch details, right? So what are the attributes we have in the table called branch? So we have BID, that is branch ID. Again, the branch ID cannot be a big number, so we took 6 as a character, that a varchar type. Okay, then the branch name, that is can be 30. Okay, so we use varchar 30. Then which city that particular branch is currently situated, so that city name. Then we use a constraint that is branch BID PK, that is we want to make BID, that branch ID, as a primary key, right? So in that case, I have said constraint branch BID PK, that is primary key, and this is which attributes I want to make a primary key, that is BID, right? Then what we did, we actually create one more table. Before that, let me just execute that. Yes, you can see our 0 rows is affected, but your table is created. Again, if you want to check your table is created or not, again write show and then tables. Just don't forget to put the semicolon, because it is one of the most important syntax in SQL. So if you don't maintain their syntaxes, you will get an error. Okay, you can see we got 2 tables, that is customer and branch, right? Yes. So this is how actually our database concepts works, right? So we made 2 tables, one is customer and second one is branch. Now we are going to make one more table, that is called account. But what are the attributes we are going to add on that particular account table, right? So account table will be connected with branch as well as connected with customers as well, right? So let's have a look at what are the attributes we have. So in account table, we are going to have account number, that is one of the most used number, you can say that everyone needs to have the account number. Then we are going to have customer ID, right? So that is already we have in customer table as well. Then we are going to have branch ID, right? So branch ID also we have in branch table. Then we will going to have a other data like what is the opening balance. Then maybe the opening balance can be 0, or someone start with their opening balance with 1000, right? So we want to make a proper data for that. Then AOD, right? What is AOD? The account opening date. Okay, so at what date you have open your accounts, that type will be date type, right? But if you see in the opening balance, we are going to use the type of opening balance is int, right? So we are not going to use varchar, because obviously the amount we are going to like use for the opening balance, that should be int, right? Then it's we have a type, your account type, that can be savings, that can be other options, right? Then account type. Then we have a status, that is account status, that it is active or you just terminated your account, right? So this is the status column or status attribute we have. Then we are going to make our constraints. So what are the constraints we are going to make? First, account number PK, that is the primary key we are going to make for account table, that is account number, right? So in my account table, account number will be my primary key. Then we are going to have a foreign key. So we all know the concepts of foreign key, right? So if you want to fetch data and if you want to join 2 tables together, that time this foreign key concept comes into the picture, right? So first we are going to attach two table together. One is account number, that is account table, and second one is the customer table. How we can do that? For that, you can see in the customer table as well, we have customer ID. In account, we have customer ID as well, right? In both of the table, we have customer ID. So in that case, our customer ID will be our foreign key, right? So yes, so we have foreign key for both of the table, and we are going to make this as our foreign key, right? Now we are going to attach two more table, that is account table and the branch table. But how we can do that? If you look at the account table, you can see we have BID, that BID column or the attributes, as well as in the branch table also we have BID, right? So both of the cases we have BID, and we will take BID as a foreign key, right? So this is how we are actually making the relation between different tables, right? So you need to have a proper relation between tables to fetch those data. Okay, so now we are going to execute the account table. Okay, let me just execute that. Yes, you can say 0 rows affected, and what it's going to say, it's already your table is created. Now I am going to use the same command, that what are the tables I have in my database right now. So show tables and then semicolon. So always put the semicolon. This is when I started my journey in MySQL, I used to get lots of error because of this. I used to forget to put the semicolon. So never forget to put the semicolon, right? Yes, you can see we have three tables over here. One is customer, one is branch, one is account, right? Now we are going to add some values to this tables to see how left join works, right? So let's see how we can start putting our data into the tables. Now we are going to insert our data into customer table. But how we can do that? First, we need to write insert into command, and then which table you want to put your data, right? My table is customer. First, for my customer table, I want to add some data to that particular table. For that, I am going to write insert into, then the table name, that customers. Then I am going to put the values, the data I want to put. Then values C001, that customer ID. Then the name is Ramesh, the middle name is Chandra, and the last name is Sharma, right? And he is belonging from Delhi. His number is 95431985, right? And the occupation is service, and his date of birth, right? So this is how we are going to insert all the data. I am trying to put some of the data basically to understand how this left join concepts works. Then we have the second value, that is Avinash. Now, if you look at this, you can see there is a null. I have no data for this. So if you see, I can put null in some of the columns. But if you want to put null for your primary key, that is not allowed. You will get an error. So let's have a look at if I want to make maybe I want to put a data, right? First, I'm going to put some, like the data is going to take, and I want to try that as a null value for a primary key. Is it going to take, or it's going to give you error for that, right? So let's have a look at that. First, I am going to insert first two row. Okay, so first two row are fine. There is no null value. Yes, so this is inserted. You can see one row is affected, one row is affected, right? So this is how we can actually put our data in a particular table. Now, what I am going to do, I am going to write insert, then into, then which table I want to insert, that is customer. And from there, I need to put what? I need to put values, right? So values, and from there I am going to write, maybe my primary key will be null. Okay, from there I am going to write Shima, and middle name for her will be Kumari. Okay, so from there I am going to write, okay, so if you can see, I have, just a second. Okay, so if you can see over here, I have written the primary key is null, then the name is Shima, and then the middle name is Kumari, and then maybe Sharma, the last name. Okay, then I am going to write this is Kolkata. Okay, then the number will be 98765. Okay, 213. Okay, cool. So this is how we are going to add the phone number. Let me just add that. Okay, now I am going to write the service is she is a service woman, and yeah, then from there I am going to write the date of birth. I'm just copy pasting it, just going to change the data. Okay, so maybe it's gonna be 1 and it's gonna be 18. Let's have a look at, and again, don't forget to put the semicolon. Now I am going to try to add it, but you can see customer ID cannot be null. You can see that what we are actually saying in that time, your primary key cannot be null. So as you see, my primary key is null. For that, it's giving me an error code. Now, if I want to add the same contact or the same data twice, maybe already I have inserted this, right? So how we actually check the data? How can you fetch all the data from your table? We know we are going to write select star from where your table name, that is customer. Okay, right. So let's have a look at what are the data we have in our table. So you can see Ramesh and Avinash is already there. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to again want to insert Avinash, right, with the same key. Okay, you can see error code duplicate entry C00002. Okay, so from here you can understand your primary key cannot be null, your primary key cannot be duplicated, right? So in this case you have to put a emphasizing in this cases, because you have to understand how this primary key concepts works. Because if you want to go for any interview, that time they will focus on how much you are good with the constraints, because when you are going to use the big data set, right, you need to make a relation between them. You have to be very sure that what are the relation you are putting over there, because they will be all connected, and from basis on that only you can manipulate data and you can fetch your data, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to insert the raised data. Okay, let me just execute that. Yes, you can see all of the data are like already inserted in my table. Now I am going to write select again star from customer. So basically I want to see what are the data I have, whatever the data I have already inserted to my table, it is already properly inserted or not. Okay, so now I am going to execute that. You can see Ramesh, Avinash, Rahul, Parul, Navin, all Shankar, all are inserted. Okay, if you can look at it, customer ID is not null for anyone, because it's not gonna take any data if your primary key is null. Right, now we are going to insert data for branch. Okay, so for branch we have BID, the branch ID, then the branch name, and the where your branch is situated, which city it is. Okay, so in that case your BID, the branch ID, is your primary key. So already I have explained that how your primary key works, but again I am repeating this because if you keep if you keep remembering this, okay, primary keys is this, and for primary key we are not allowed to give any null value, or primary key, for the primary key we cannot give duplicate value. That will basically help you to remind all the constraint, because we have multiple constraints, but most important constraint, if you ask me, then I should say primary key and the foreign key are the most important constraint. You need to understand them. Right, now I am going to insert all the value into my branch table. Right, let me just execute that. Yes, you can see all of them are inserted. Now again I am going to write the same command to understand how whatever the data I have actually inserted to my table, it's properly inserted or not. Select star from where the branch, the table name, okay, and again the semicolon. Let me just execute that. Yes, you can see I have branch ID P0012345 and the branch name and the city, that is all of them are in Delhi and one of them is Mumbai. Right, now you can see our branch table and our customer tables is filled with the data. Now we are going to fill our account table with the data. You can see our account table primary key was account number, and from there your customer ID, then branch ID, then the opening amount you have, right, then the date of opening of your account and what type of account you have, savings account you have or any other type, right, and then your account status, that is active, you're suspended or terminated, anything. Right, so for most of the cases I have savings account, and most of the cases my account is active. Some of the cases I have suspended and the terminated. Right, let me just insert them in the table called account. So in that case, if you want to execute multiple time at a time, what you need to do, you just need to like select that part and just click on execute. So all of them will be executed, right? Okay, and one more thing, be sure in that whatever the sequence you are putting your data, in the same sequence you have attribute in your table. Otherwise, you will get an error. Let me just show you how you can get an error if you are going to give in order is not same, right? So maybe in the last one, it's already inserted. We are going to see that it is inserted or not in our table. But before that, I want to show you that, yeah, if you are not going to make the proper order, okay, you will get an error. So insert into account and then values, I am going to write 1. So our primary key is not same. And here I am going to write C004, but I am going to change the order over here. Okay, so after this, maybe I am going to write. Okay, let's have a look at it's going to tick or not. But yes, I need to change. No, I don't need to change this because the branch ID can be same, right? Yes, you can see error code cannot add or update child or foreign key constraint fails because the thing is that you are not maintaining the proper order. If you are not going to maintain a proper order, obviously you will get an error. So always whenever you start working with MySQL, be sure these are the part you have to remember. The semicolon part, the proper ordering, whatever the ordering you have given in the table when you are creating the table, right? And when you are inserting the data in that particular table, be sure that order is same. Otherwise, you will get an error, right? Now we are going to check that is the data is already inserted in our account or not. For that, we are going to use the same syntax. Select start from what account, which table, right? That is account. Then the semicolon. Let me just execute that. Yes, you can see I have account number A001 and the customer ID is C001 and branch ID is B001, opening balance 10,000. Sorry, 1,000. And the status is active, A-type savings and AOD, right? All of your data is already inserted in your account. Now we are going to perform our left join concepts. How our left join wants. In that case, maybe we want all the data from the customer ID, okay? All the data from customers who are actually there in the account, okay? So in that case, let's have a look at how we can start doing that. Now we are going to make our SQL left join. How we can do that? Before that, what we can do, maybe if you have a lots of data and if you want to make sure that your data is fetched properly from the table or not, you can use a count function, right? So we basically use count function to understand how many inserts, how many rows you have in your table, right? So for my case, if I write select count and what you want to count, maybe I want to count the customer ID from customers, right? So as it's a primary key, you know there is no null value is there. So whatever the count you have, whatever the data you have, you will get the proper count of that, right? Let me just do that. Yes, you can see you have 10 data in your customer table. Now, if I want to do the same thing with the account table, what we can do, we can write account number as account number is our primary key, right? Let me just copy that. Okay. Now I am going to write count, account ID and from account, which table you want to have that count. You can see both are 10. Okay, so these are the, like for my case, maybe this is 10. For your case, maybe the customer ID will be large, but the account number will be less because we all know that maybe you have the database, you took the data from the customer, but they did not open any account in your bank particularly. Maybe. So in that case, maybe you have a large number of customers in the data, in the table, but as a account, like who has the account in your bank, that time you have less number of customer, right? So in that case, maybe you can check, okay, I want all the customers from my table and the customer who has actually account number. So what it will happen when you are going to use a left join, so you will get all the result from customer, right? But for the account, you will get only those customers who are matching with the customer table, right? So in that case, what I have written, select, okay, star basically is you want all the data, all the columns from your table. right? So select star from where? Star from the customer table. So I want all the data from the customer table. Then I have written left join. So the join will be left join. Then from which, like with which table you want to join. So for my case, I want to join with account, right? So select star from customer. So I want all the data from customer which is like similar with account, right? Which are matching with account on which key you want to save, which attribute. So we all know customer ID is the foreign key for customer and account, right? Because customer ID is already there in a customer table and customer ID is also there in the account table. Then I have written customer.cast ID is equals to account.cast ID, right? Let me just execute that. Yes, if you look at it, you can see I have customer ID, if name, last name, CT, mobile number, all the thing. Okay, so you can see over here I have AOD and all. But if you can look over here, right, they don't have any account number. Okay, but still the customer is already there. The customer data is there. But maybe you want to say, okay, I want only those customer, right? I want only those customer who has the account in my bank. So in that case, you need to change the order. I am going to write account. Okay, select star from account, left join, then customer. Okay, now, okay, customer. Now I am going to write what? I am going to write, okay, account, our table name, same. You are just swapping the places, okay? So you can see the difference between them. And you will understand the left join properly as well. You can see, okay. So here you can see all the data, okay? But here, if you see account number, every one of them has the account number. And customer ID without account, you didn't get any data who does not have any account, right? So in this case, you want all the customer with the account in your bank. And before that, when we are using the customer in the like when we have the customers, that time it was giving all the customer irrespective with the customer has account in your bank or not, right? So this is the concepts of left join, how you can actually get all your data according to your uses. Maybe sometime you want all the customer, maybe they have account number or not, you don't care about it. Sometime you want a customer who is actually in your customers, basically they have their bank account with you, right? So this is how we are going to use left join. Now let's go to the presentation back and let's have a look at what else we have, what are the other joins we have in our MySQL.